Tonight's Planning Commission meeting. We are a deciding body that has been appointed by your town council to make recommendations and decisions on land use matters within the town. We welcome your attendance today and certainly encourage your participation. If you'd like to speak on any of the items that we have on our agenda, I ask that you do fill out one of these speaker cards. They're located on behind the chamber benches. Fill them out and just give them to one of us, okay? And if you need any of the materials that we have in front of us, they should be available out in the lobby. And if they're not, just flag one of us and we can get those to you. Okay, Ms. Bailey, can you do tonight's roll call?
Commissioner Bourgeois?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Here.
Commissioner Talsford?
Here.
Commissioner Erickson?
Here.
Vice Chair Jensen?
Here.
And Chair Sale?
Here. And if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item, we have minutes from our last meeting, which was on November 9th. We have draft in our attachments. Does anyone have any comments or questions to the meeting minutes? Commissioner Jensen?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as we've received them tonight.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner
second
Talsfar. Okay. And before we
Hello?
vote on it, just want to mention I was not at the meeting, but I did review the tapes and can vote on it. So all those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Okay, written communications. We have one item on our desk. It is for item number 4, 16213 Los Gatos Boulevard. It's fairly brief, so if anyone needs more time beforehand, just let me know. We have no requested continuances, and we're now at subcommittee reports. In addition to serving on the Planning Commission, we are also on at least one subcommittee, and tonight we usually just give updates on what has transpired since our last meeting. I believe our Conceptual Development Advisory Committee and our Historic Preservation Committee has met since we last met as a commission. And Commissioner Erickson, will you provide both those updates?
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't get to talk, Joanne. The Historic Preservation Committee met yesterday and considered 3 items. The first was to consider a request to demolish a pre-1941 residence and remove it from the Historic Resources Inventory at 521 Bachman Avenue. The Historic Preservation Committee made the appropriate findings and recommended that action to the Development Review Committee. The second item was a request to modify a previously approved detached garage in the planned development at 367 Los Gatos Boulevard, otherwise known as the Thrash House. And the committee recommended to the Director of Community Development to accept the proposed changes that were submitted for the garage at that location. And then there was a third, a request to approve the demolishing of an accessory structure at 255 Edeland Avenue, which the committee also recommended positively to the Director of Community Development to demolish that accessory structure. This afternoon, the Conceptual Development Advisory Committee met with apparently the largest attendance by the public at a CDAC meeting in recent history. An applicant submitted a request to amend the town code to allow the vacation rental homes and bed and breakfast inns with a conditional use permit in R1D zones in the town. The particular applicant was present and has a particular property that she was interested in being applied to in the zone. For clarity, the CDAC is not a body which takes action. It simply is composed of 3 planning commissioners, Commissioner O'Donnell, Commissioner Talsfor, and myself, and 2 members of the town council presently, Mayor Steve Rice and Vice Mayor Barbara Spector. The committee was unanimous in its opinion, which is just informative to the applicant. If the applicant chooses to go forward with an application, was unanimous in its position that it would not be supportive and didn't think it was appropriate to consider a change in the zoning ordinance that would allow conditional use permits for bed and breakfast in an R1D zone in the town.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Any questions? Okay, thank you again. We are now at verbal communications. This is the portion of the meeting where you may speak on an item not on the agenda. I don't have any speaker cards, so I'm assuming no one is interested in speaking. And so we now move to consent calendar. I have 2 items on consent calendar, and these items are not discussed nor deliberated on. They're just taken as one motion unless it is pulled. Commissioners, would anyone like to pull one? And I see no one from the audience moving forward, so I look for a motion. Commissioner Jensen.
I move approval of the consent calendar, which consists of our proposed meeting schedule for 2012, which is item number 1 in our agenda, and item number 2, 423 North Santa Cruz Avenue, conditional use permit U-11-015, which is an application by Walgreens on North Santa Cruz Avenue to sell beer and wine for off-site consumption. And I would move to adopt those items with the, is somebody pulling it? 2 people are. Okay.
Okay.
Can I stick with the calendar? Alrighty. I move to approve the calendar.
Okay.
Hopefully non-controversial.
Do I have a second to item number? Okay. Commissioner Bourgeois seconds. All those in favor to item number 1?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, so we are now at item number 2, which is 423 North Santa Cruz Avenue, which has been pulled from consent. This is conditional use permit U-11-015. And Ms. Bailey, who is providing tonight's staff report?
Ms. Savage.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. The project site is located on the west side of North Santa Cruz Avenue, approximately 250 feet north of Los Gatos Saratoga Road, and is surrounded by commercial uses and office uses, as well as residential uses to the west. The applicant is proposing to sell beer and wine for off-sale consumption. The drugstore would not place any signs or other advertisements of the sale of beer and wine on the exterior of the store or visible from the exterior of the store. The applicant has provided both a project description with justification and a floor plan. No existing changes are proposed to the store at the exterior. However, they would modify the existing floor plan to accommodate the sales. The project would allow an existing resident-oriented retail business to expand the products that they sell, and the project meets all the zoning regulations and objectives of the general plan. This concludes staff presentation, and staff is available for any questions.
Any questions of Ms. Savage? Thank you, Ms. Savage. Is the applicant present for item number 2? Okay, if you could step forward. If you're welcome to speak. I don't know if you're prepared to or not, but go ahead. Please state your name and your address, and afterwards, if you could just submit one of these cards so I have it on the record.
My name's Dan Kramer. I'm outside counsel for Walgreens and located at 58 Maiden Lane in San Francisco. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak before you this evening. Other than a brief hiatus from 2000 to 2009, Walgreens has been selling alcohol in California since the end of Prohibition. And in an effort to address requests by its customers and to level the playing field with its competitors such as Rite Aid and CVS and Safeway, Walgreens desires to begin selling beer and wine again, albeit a very modest selection We're talking about 18 feet of shelf space for wine and 1 cooler for beer. In terms of selection, Walgreens has carefully selected its proposed offering to cater to light to moderate drinkers. The selection will consist mostly of California varietals such as Merlots and Chardonnays, Pinot Noirs, in the $7 to $15 range, and beers will only be sold in 6-packs, 12-packs, and cases. No single servings of beer, no malt liquor, no cheap fortified wine, and no hard alcohol. Walgreens currently sells beer and wine in more than 300 of its stores in California every day in a safe, responsible, and conscientious manner, and has a number of safeguards in place that have ensured that these sales have been made with little or no impact on the neighborhoods and the vicinity surrounding these other stores. And these safeguards and the training at this location will be no different. All the necessary findings required to issue this permit can be made here. Walgreens provides for a different shopping experience than other stores in the vicinity that sell alcohol, so public convenience would be served from this use, and this use is consistent with other uses in this zone. Additionally, the recommended conditions, as well as Walgreens' internal safeguards, such as its point-of-sale technology, its internal alcohol training program, the fact that no clerks under the age of 21 will be allowed to stock or sell the product. This will all ensure that the use will not be detrimental to the general welfare. And this use is consistent, again, with the goals of the 2020 general plan. And above all, the store has been operating for a little over 7 years and has a great record as a good corporate citizen and responsible retailer. Accordingly, Walgreens respectfully requests your support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Let's just see if you have any questions. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Smith?
Commissioner Bourgeois, not Commissioner Smith, but I appreciate all of everything you just said and all the precautions you're making to make sure that the character of the store and the zone stays the same, but none of those are in your conditions of approval. So I'm just wondering if you would be open to some of those restrictions actually being added to your CUP.
Definitely. So the conditions, I think, there's some conditions that are inherent in any Type 20 license from the ABC. Obviously, those will apply. And any other conditions that the town deems necessary, Walgreens is definitely open and willing to consider them.
Commissioner Smith?
I have a couple of questions. One actually pertains to the previous question, and one of the reasons why I pulled it from the consent calendar. What are the hours that you intend to sell the alcohol?
So Walgreens, in its proposal, has said that we're willing to limit the hours. Obviously, it's a 24-hour store. The ABC limits the hours you can sell by law, so you can't sell 24 hours. It's 6 to 2. But Walgreens, in its proposal, has offered to limit the sales until midnight.
And again, maybe this is the question for staff. Is that going to be in the CUP?
The hours are yes.
They are. And then there were a particular requirement by the police department?
I don't believe so.
The police department requirement is in the conditions.
It is in there.
Sorry, for the security cameras.
So one of the questions I have is, if Walgreens has been successful in Los Gatos for many years, even prior to its present location, without the sale of alcohol, and it's only going to account for, I guess, 1 or 2%, according to the documentation that you provided, of sales, why is it necessary to do that at this point?
So it's not just these days. Retailers have sort of blended together. So even though Walgreens is considered a general retailer and a pharmacy, it may have very similar products than, say, a Safeway or Target or maybe some other retailers. For instance, you can go to Walgreens and get toothpaste, and you can also get it from Safeway. But you can also go to Safeway and get alcohol. So what Walgreens is experiencing is that people are trying to do more of the one-stop shopping. You go into Safeway maybe to pick up some wine, and then you walk by the Tylenol or the toothpaste or the deodorant, and you pick up all of that. So Walgreens is losing business to other retailers by not having beer and wine, even though, just by focusing on the volume of beer and wine, it may not be so apparent. It's a lot of the ancillary products.
Just so you understand my perspective in this, I'm not as concerned about Safeway or Target as I am about the two independent retailers that are very close to Walgreens who also sell beer and wine. And this is my concern. One is, or at least beer, the 7-Eleven, which is right down the street, and right very close within walking distance is an actual liquor store. So my concern isn't Walgreens being successful against Safeway. What my thought was, what is going to happen to these two independent retailers now that Walgreens has become a mini mart plus beer and wine. So that's my thinking, just so you understand why I'm asking my questions.
Right, and Walgreens believes it, and it's a much different shopping experience. So you would obviously only go to the liquor store just for the liquor, but Walgreens, I'm not sure if you shop there, but I mean you probably have a good understanding of it, and it's more of the general convenience factor.
And then I just have one last tangential question. Is Walgreens a member of the Chamber of Commerce of Los Gatos?
I'd have to defer that to the store managers, if you don't mind.
Just thinking about the local involvement of.
And actually, Mr. Kramer,
Okay.
because these are transcribed,
Right.
if you can have your local store manager come up and answer
Okay.
that.
If you don't mind, I can.
And then, ma'am, if you could just state your name and address when you come to the podium.
My name is Moon, M-O-O-N, Song, S-O-N-G, and do I use your address? My address is, I'm from actually Walgreens down Blossom Hill in Harwood, 14100 Blossom Hill, and I do believe that we did apply for the council, City of Council here.
The Chamber of Commerce is
Chamber of
my
Commerce.
question.
Yes. I think we did. That was back 2 years ago when I was at
I'm
Los
just
Gatos.
asking the question because obviously I want to see what the local connection is with Walgreens and the community that you're in. here.
Yes, and then we are very involved with senior homes and everything because we are focused with the pharmacy. So we do a lot of clientels are from seniors. So we do have a lot of involvement with the flu shots and other programs that we have within the store. Oh, sorry. So we do get involved with other programs that we have within the store because we are generally mostly pharmacy orientated. So yes, we do have to get a lot of involvement and activities.
And then one
within the
last
pharmacy.
question while I have you here. Since you have expanded so much into your food versus your pharmacy, and I am a frequent shopper of Walgreens, what do you do when your food expires? What happens to it?
We do 1506 is what we call it, and basically we charge it out. So we dispose it.
You dispose of it. You don't give it to Second Harvest Food or
If it's expired, we don't give it to another because it's expired. But if it's something that's damaged but it's not expired, then we do have containers like recycle where we could donate.
Thank you.
Commissioner Telesfor.
Hello, is this on? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Whoever would like to answer these questions, I don't know. But I really, in the staff report, under the police department comments, and it said that it states that the police department does not generally support additional locations to sell alcohol. And so it brings a question to me, because it really struck me, and I was wanted to ask you to look closely and tell me what benefit then is this to our town. 18 feet of alcohol stacked, is that what it is?
Yeah, so
The
it's
shelves?
18,
Okay.
yeah, 18 feet. So Walgreens.
What's the benefit?
And both of the store managers can probably attest to this, but several times a day, people come into the store asking if Walgreens sell beer and wine. So, and Walgreens has thousands of customers that come in every day looking for this. So it's really a benefit to the customers of Walgreens who are looking for this.
They have thousands of customers that come in every day looking for beer and wine.
Not looking for beer and wine, but people every day are asking for beer and wine. And Walgreens wouldn't be selling this product if it wasn't for the customer demand.
So would you consider this an incidental product to your store?
I mean, it's very much ancillary in terms of, I believe the store has close to 23,000 square feet, but it's a convenience, that Walgreens wants to supply to its customers, purely based on the customer's requests.
What types of wine would you be selling? Is it because you know that we do have a liquor store across the street to the south of you, and then there's an Enoteca which sells wine also across the street, and then we have Safeway, all within about 150, 200 feet of your store. So
I mean, it's a lot of the familiar brands, but also Walgreens does things like sells a product called like Colby Red, for instance, which gives proceeds to the Heart Foundation. Certain brands they look to carry certain brands like that, which provide benefit to the greater community.
yeah, isn't Colby brand a Walgreen beer?
It's a red wine.
Oh, it's a red wine. Is
Yeah.
that a Walgreen wine? I thought
I don't believe it is.
I thought that
No,
the company was making.
You may be thinking of a beer, but it's not.
Okay.
It's Colby's not.
Let's see what other. I think that's all my questions for now.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? Okay. Okay, thank you for your time. And I have no speaker cards on the subject. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this agenda item? Okay. And Mr. Kramer, you have another 3 minutes if there's any closing statements that you'd like to make. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Commissioners, I'm closing the public input of this. Commissioner O'Donnell.
I just wanted to ask staff, my understanding on the police position on this was, the report says, police department reviewed the proposal, although the police department generally does not support additional locations, their concerns for the subject parcel would be alleviated if the applicant installs and operates a security camera system and makes its records available to the PD at their request. Is it staff's understanding that the police department therefore no longer has an objection to this?
This is a concern that the police department shares for any application coming forward with alcoholic beverage service, such as a new restaurant, a new wine shop, or a retail business that just sells wine for off sales. It's a concern that staff wanted to present as it presents with any business that sells alcohol for either off-site or on-site consumption. Yes, their general concerns would be alleviated with this camera installation because it provides them more control for any concerns that they may have in terms of theft or damage.
So the word alleviates mean that once they do this, they are not asserting a concern anymore. Is that right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jensen?
Am I correct in reading my staff report that a finding of community benefit is not required to approve this application?
Correct.
Any other questions of staff? Commissioner Telesfor.
Getting back to the security cameras, then, would it follow that a store like Safeway would also have a security camera at their alcohol area?
Correct. And a security camera system was a condition of approval for the recently newly constructed Safeway on North Santa Cruz Avenue.
Any other questions? Okay. With no questions, any comments, any thoughts, any motions? Commissioner Jensen.
I'm going to go for my motion again. I've heard the concerns of my fellow commissioners. And again, my motion would be to approve conditional use permit application U-11-015, specifically including, which I think it's already included actually as condition number 2, 10, specifically requires a security camera. I would also like to add, Mr. Kramer indicated that Walgreens has an internal training policy that no employee under the age of 21 would be stocking or selling beer and wine, indicated that 18 feet of the store would be dedicated to alcohol sales, 1 beer cooler, 18 feet of wine, that their hours would be limited. As I read the staff report, it's 8 a.m. until midnight, even though the ABC would be 6 a.m. to 2. So that my condition would be indicating that it's allowed from 8 a.m. to midnight. And make the other findings and conditions that are contained in our staff report. And as indicated by Mr. Craner, that this project is categorically exempt under Section 15301 of the State Environmental Guidelines, as required by Section 292190 of the Town Code for a conditional use permit. We need to find that the proposed uses of property are essential or desirable to the public convenience and welfare, and in this case, it's not essential, but as indicated by Mr. Kramer, it's desirable. The proposed use will not impair the integrity or character of the zone. As we all know, and has been indicated tonight, there are establishments within a quarter mile of this location that sell alcohol that have been approved by the Planning Commission recently. Enoteca, Safeway, the liquor store, the 7-Eleven, Double D's if you want to go across the street, etc. And the proposed use will meet the objectives of the general plan and town code. It does meet those, and it does meet the requirements of Section 4B of the redevelopment plan for Central Los Gatos redevelopment. And just as an aside from my comments, I think it is fair to allow Walgreens to compete on the same playing field as Safeway, which we allow to have a pharmacy, a florist, a Starbucks, a bank. It's fair to allow Walgreens to devote 18 feet of its space to sell beer and wine.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Jensen. Do I have a second? Commissioner Bourgeois?
I have a second, and I'd like to ask the maker of the motion if, based on comments by Mr. Kramer, if you would consider adding as a condition no sale of single and no malt liquor, as well as if those could be added as conditions of approval.
Yes, I would approve that and ask to add those as conditions.
Okay, then I will second the motion as amended.
I think that Mr. Kramer also indicated there would be no fortified wine and something else, but to the extent that his representations are in our record, I would include those.
Okay. Any questions or comments to the motion? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, I have 2 nays, so the motion passes 5-2 with Commissioners Smith and Talasford dissenting. Okay, and Ms. Bailey, are there appeal rights on this?
Yes, this decision is appealable to the Town Council. The appeal must be filed within 10 days. There is a fee for filing an appeal, and the appeal forms are located upstairs in the Town Clerk's office.
Okay, thank you. We now move to agenda item number 3. It is located at 50 University Avenue, Suite A280, conditional use permit U-11-014. And Ms. Savage, are you also providing this staff report?
Yes.
Okay.
The project site is located on the east side of University Avenue, approximately 500 feet north of West Main Street in the Old Town Shopping Center. The proposed business would occupy approximately 5,000 square feet of the former Borders book space. A conditional use permit for Formula Retail was not required when Borders was established in this space. Any new Formula Retail business is required to obtain a conditional use permit. Since the space was previously occupied by a Formula Retail business, the proposed use would not increase the number of Formula Retailers. The project would allow a formula retail business to establish in a portion of a commercial space previously occupied by a formula retail business, and the project is consistent with the planned development of Old Town Shopping Center. This concludes staff presentation, and staff is available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Savage. I understand that Borders had a community meeting. Are there any disclosures that any commissioners need to make? Anyone in attendance? You said Borders? I'm sorry. Not Borders, Anthropology, excuse me. Okay, so no disclosures? Okay. And I assume you are the applicant? Again, if you can state your name and address, and when you are finished, if you can fill out one of these record statements. Thank you.
My name's Ken Nemeth, Nemeth, 361 West Woodland Avenue, Springfield, Pennsylvania, 19064. I'm Senior Development Manager for Anthropology Incorporated. I'm going to keep it short and hopefully sweet. First, I'd like to thank the Town of Los Gatos Planning Commission for allowing me to speak tonight, and would also like to thank Town Project Planner Jennifer Savage for her collaboration and recommendations on this project. I'm pleased to be proposing for what Anthropology is a truly new concept, the small format store. If you've shopped us before, you know that our typical store size is about 10,000 to 12,000 square feet. We also can go up to as large as 20,000 square feet. The proposed store that's been submitted is 5,800 square feet. It's actually the smallest store we've ever put on paper. We wanted to do this first store in a community that had the right combination of factors. After a lengthy review of over 40 national locations, we felt, and this is personally a plus for me, we felt that Los Gatos was the right place to propose this new concept, specifically Old Town Center, which has an outstanding mix of both national and local tenants. And it's a personal thing for me because I lived in the Bay Area for 7 years. I'm actually originally from Philadelphia. And every weekend for most of those 7 years, I used to run the Los Gatos Creek Trail and then have a huge breakfast at Hobie's. So I'm very familiar with the town. Our plan for the new concept is to offer to our Anthropology customer a product assortment that is curated from our larger inventory. In other words, we had a couple different ways that we could go on it, but after reviewing the demographics and really looking at our local customer, we felt that she's going to really enjoy the idea of a smaller Anthropology. So not just throwing out entire concepts, but really more keeping the kind of an edited assortment of the things that we would normally offer in an Anthropology store. In addition to this being a new concept for us, I can say truly that Anthropology is unique at every location. This is coming from someone with 8.5 years with the company and 18 years in retail. I've also been fortunate enough to build most of the stores in Northern California. And if you've been to some of our other stores in the area, you know that each one does have unique factors. Corte Madera with its atrium, Carmel with its cabana beach-style entry hall, San Jose with its leaded glass transom and vaulted ceilings, and Burlingame with its stacked concrete wall and Ipe copper screen. This store is no exception from an architectural perspective. Our plan creates a sales area, which you can see up on the screen, that actually is really 3 sales area. If you look at the bottom right, you can see the entry with the storefront windows with a lot of natural light coming in. That actually is kind of the first storefront area, kind of the entry area. And if you notice at the left, there's the fitting rooms, and right next to that is the second part of the sales area, which is more intimate, more lit by artificial light. And then there's a meeting point in the middle, which is actually where the 2 sales areas meet. And you can kind of see right here with the thicker walls. That actually has special lighting. It also has a special coffered ceiling to kind of recall a little bit of the mission style that's so prevalent in Los Gatos. We also, and that's something that's very unique, we haven't done that in any other location. We also actually haven't done this particular way in which we mix the different portions of the sales area into these 3 distinct zones. We've never done that anywhere else either. We've also never done the size of the sales area, which is 3,200 square feet, or the number of fitting rooms. I think the other thing that I can say is that in addition to the uniqueness of the concept, I really do feel like, having been in the industry and also having worked for other retailers, that we do business in ways that are different from other larger retailers. We have significant visual merchandising budgets for each store, and all materials are purchased locally. Each store is basically given a loose configuration of store inspiration concepts and encouraged to come up with their own vision based on those inspiration concepts. We do join the Chamber of Commerce. We do hold community events in our store. We recently actually had a book reading in one of our stores up in Corte Madera. But ultimately, we know that Los Gatos has a lot to protect as a living, breathing community. We would love to be part of that, but we understand that we need to be part of it on your terms, that in a way that Anthropologie, that we do well for us, but we also have to do well for you, and we also have to do well by you. And that's it. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Telesfor.
When do you expect to open?
Yes, we're actually going to start construction in March, and we'll be opening by the first week of July, and that would be 2012.
And will you be advertising locally for help in the store,
Yeah, we will.
et cetera, et cetera?
Absolutely. We hire everybody locally. Yeah, we're definitely, we actually have our district visual merchandiser here, and that was actually part of the luncheon that we went to today. We brought our district store manager as well as our district visual manager, and we met with the community. We're really trying to get the word out to hire everybody locally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
I just have a couple of questions. One is, I noticed in your application that the hours on Sunday were restricted to 11 to 5, and I'm not sure if that's the complex you're in or that's the Anthropologie nationwide 11 to 5 on Sundays.
Yeah, that's actually pretty typical for us in terms of our stated store policy nationwide.
I just want to encourage you to rethink that, only because the vitality and vibrancy of Los Gatos really continues past 5 o'clock on Sundays in retail. So I'm just throwing that out to you. But my second question is actually the use of the patio. Is it Anthropologie's use of the patio, or is that going to be a different tenant?
It's actually shared. We have the rights to use part of it, but there is actually the way, if you look at the master plan for what's happening with the Borders store, there's actually going to be 3 tenants that are going to be sharing that patio.
And what do you, Anthropologie, envision the patio, your portion of it or your use of it?
Sure. What we envision is similar to what we've done when we have public space, which is we'll be putting a series of plants and planters out there with unusual plantings. Probably we'll be putting some home out there. And the idea basically is when we open the doors during the day, we'll take the product out, place it on the veranda just for decorative purposes only, and then bring it back in at night.
So you'll have merchandise out on the patio, is what you're saying to me?
Mostly found objects. So, I mean, we can restrict it either way, but we would most likely want to put something out on the patio for visual purposes.
All right. And can you also tell me about the staffing levels? You anticipate hiring 20 employees, 2, 15, 80?
Yeah, actually 20 to 25. I would say probably 15 to 20 non-peak, and then in holiday we'll probably go up to about 30.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Telesfor.
Can we get back to merchandise outside?
Sure.
On the patio, which I'm not object to, but I'm curious, it would, because I don't think this is any value, but it wouldn't be mannequins with clothes on, would it?
No.
Okay, thank you. That's one thing. And then would you mind, yeah, we're looking for, a long relationship with you in our town, but the small concept store is very new concept. And I would like a little more explanation about that. When you say it's edited, how does someone edit in a town that, there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that'd be using your store plus visitors. So when you edit, how do we keep them? You just get more merchandise more often, or you run out and that's it, or help me out here.
Right, sure, no problem. Basically, it's definitely going to be an ongoing experiment since it is such a new concept for us. what we're going to do is we're going to use our experts back at home office coupled with our regional team here in the peninsula and the San Francisco Bay Area, and we're going to continue to kind of target what works for the local consumer, and then just basically tweak it. It's not so much that because we're trying to figure out how to make things work for a community that is smaller, which is why we chose Los Gatos. So the idea is we're trying to kind of figure out which parts of the collection work well and sell through properly, and which ones don't. So really, ultimately, the local customer is actually going to tell us what she wants, and we're going to give her what she wants, because certain things will sell and certain things won't. And as we kind of go through our relationship with you guys, we'll actually continue to kind of tweak and get the collection to a place where it's consistently what our local customer is looking for.
Will there be catalog sales as well?
Well, we'll be generally using, I would say, an edited version of what we offer in catalog, if that makes sense. In other words,
You're not going to be over-promoting catalog, but...
Well, catalog's kind of a separate part of our business, right. And there will be aspects that are in the local store that are in the catalog.
Oh, okay, that's different. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Just to remind me, in your larger stores, particularly the one in Santana Row, you sell furniture, clothing, shoes. Do you plan to incorporate all that also, or is it you're going to focus on one particular area of merchandise?
It's a great question. We went back and forth for a while on this, and we definitely want to try to provide the same level and percentage of what we offer in terms of the relationship between found products, furniture, bath, bedroom, kitchen, and apparel. So we're basically going to try to generally do the same percentages, but just at a smaller scale.
And one of the complaints we hear from applicants or consumers is that there aren't many shops for men to shop in town. Is your store specifically geared towards women?
Yes, absolutely. We a little known fact, actually. We started our first store in 1992. We tried selling men's for about 2 years. Quite frankly, we never got it right. And we, as a company, believe in doing what we're great at. And what we're great at with the Anthropologie brand is selling to women in particular. And I think if we ever can figure out how to sell to men, we'll definitely start a brand that does that. But yeah, for right now, I mean, Anthropologie it'll be mostly geared towards women.
Okay, thank you. And any other questions? Commissioner Smith?
I just have one question because it was asked of me and I could not answer it. And the meaning of anthropology is?
Well, it's funny. The founder of the brand, Dick Hayne, had traveled a lot when he was younger, and he'd also taken a lot of anthropology courses in college, and also had a real bent for French country. So he kind of married his love for France and French country style and furniture, and kind of married it with his college. I think it was his college minor, which was anthropology.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. And again, on this one, I do not have any speaker cards. Anyone's welcome to speak. But seeing none, if there's any other last statements you'd like to make before I close the public portion of this.
No, thank you. Thanks very much for hosting me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And then Commissioners, Commissioner Telesfor.
Well,
okay.
to approve the store, I think we've waited a long time for this store. I think there was rumor years ago that we might come in and it didn't happen. I can't think of a better site for you to be at the right now. It's on. Okay. Right now, I hope that if you get very successful, which I hope you will, that there'd be room for you to expand. You said all the right things to us. In fact, very few times do we ever hear a store come before us and say, we want to do and fit into the character of Los Gatos. And I appreciate that, and I think my fellow commissioners do as well. Thank you for realizing that you're in a historical building that used to be a school. I'm sure you know all about it by now. So for that, I'd like to move that we approve conditional use permit application U-11-014 and I can make the findings. Requesting approval to operate a formula retail store, Anthropology, on property zoned C2 LHP PD, and it's the APN is 529-02-044. I can make findings for CEQA that the project is categorically exempt pursuant to Section 15301 of the State Environmental Guidelines as adopted by the town, and that this project consists of permitting an existing facility involving negligible, can't even say it, use beyond the existing use. And also I can make the required findings for a conditional use permit as required by Section 2920-190 of the Town Code for granting a conditional use permit. I don't think I need to repeat all of that, do I, or I will, but it would be included in A, and then under that, the Town Code, as shown in Exhibit 2-1, that the proposed use's property is essential or desirable for public convenience. Proposed use will not impair the integrity, and it would not be detrimental to public health, and it would not be, and that it is in harmony. And in fact, unfortunately, since it is only women's clothing in the at this point over at the Old Town building, at least it really will appeal to a much broader generation of women. So, and I required findings also as stated forth in B, and then also required findings for the redevelopment plan for the Central Los Gatos redevelopment project area, that the proposed project is consistent with the redevelopment plan for the Central Los Gatos project area, section 4B. I think that's it.
Okay, and do I have a second to the motion? Commissioner Smith will second. Any comments or questions? Commissioner Bourgeois.
I'm going to be supporting the motion, but I just wanted to go on record that it's very reluctantly, I've stated on the record many times, my concerns about Old Town and the amount of formula retail there, specifically the amount of women's apparel in that one location. When White House Black Market was expanding, I voted against that. I think this is a good fit for the space, but again, I just wanted to voice my concern about the over-concentration of that one use in Old Town. Really concerns me. So.
Okay. Any other comments? Commissioner Telesfor?
The one thing I will say is that they do sell things that go beyond clothing for women. I mean, you could go in there, John, and actually buy dishes or glasses if you so care to. So they do carry other items. It's not exactly what I know you're hoping for, but I don't think we'll be disappointed.
Well, I'm not even going to address that. But I think what would have helped me make this decision easier for me personally is to understand the master plan for this whole building. I mean, when they talked about there's going to be 3 tenants, and understanding what that mix of uses is in that building would have made our job as planners easier, understanding the full context of what's happening there. So looking at this in a vacuum, which is what we have to do, which is the only reason I'm hesitating. So I just wanted to express my concern.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It passes unanimously. And Ms. Bailey, are there appeal rights on this matter?
Yes, this decision is appealable to the Town Council. The appeal must be filed within 10 days. There is a fee for filing an appeal, and the appeal forms are located upstairs in the Town Clerk's office.
Okay, we are now at item number 4. It is located at 16213 Los Gatos Boulevard. And before I continue, Commissioner Telesfor.
Yeah, I'm going to once again recuse myself from this item as I have done in the past, since we have a business relationship with the applicant, and my husband still serves on the board of directors of the development that we live in, so nothing's changed.
Okay. We just have to wait a couple of minutes as Commissioner Telesfor leaves the chambers. Okay. Again, this is architecture site application S-11-065 through S-11-086. And Ms. Davis, are you here for a staff report?
Yes.
Thank you.
The project site is located on the west side of Los Gatos Boulevard. It's the block bound by Los Gatos Boulevard, Mitchell Avenue, George Street, and Roberts Road. It's a 1.9-acre property. And the plan development was previously considered by the Planning Commission, moved forward to Town Council. Council approved the PD on October 3rd. The PD ordinance was introduced on that date, and the council also approved the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring plan at that time. The PD ordinance was adopted on October 17th. The tentative map to subdivide the property was approved by the DRC on November 15th, and this is the last phase, the architecture and site approval for the project. The subject applications that you have before you are for 22 single-family homes. There are 22 independent applications. They've been grouped within the staff report, but there are actually 22 separate applications here. The architecture has been refined further since you last saw the project. The applicant worked extensively with our consulting architect to do that. Each of the homes will be unique in terms of their appearance. Some of the unit sizes have been reduced to further increase setbacks between the homes. Detailed landscape, lighting, and fencing plans have been provided, and we have some material exhibits up on the wall for you, as well as attached to the staff report. Also, there's details of the public improvements, including the Los Gatos Boulevard Center median and the bulb outs on George Street on either corner. Staff recommendation is for approval of the applications. Required findings are provided in attachment, or excuse me, Exhibit 2 to the staff report. We also gave you the PD ordinance because we did not, in the conditions of approval, which is Exhibit 4, those are any new conditions. We preferred back to the PDs, so all those existing conditions in the PD are applicable as well. And that concludes staff's report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Commissioners, any questions of Ms. Davis? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Robeson, if you can, you have 5 minutes. Welcome back.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners and town staff. For the record, my name is Mark Robeson. My address is 15015 Carl Avenue, Montestorino, California, and I represent Robeson Homes. I'd like to start we showed this rendering at the Planning Commission meeting back in September, and I want to start here. This is a jumping off point. I think this is an attractive rendering. What I'm hoping to do tonight is to quickly walk you through the details of the project, and with the ultimate goal of making sure that this is not just a pretty picture, but is going to be a terrific new addition to our community and a great place to live. Next slide, please. This is a home that we built at Bluebird Lane, and it's similar to, in material and colors, to what we are thinking about doing at the corner of Mitchell and Los Gatos Boulevard. Authentic shingles. I want to point out the window details with the sill. At Bluebird Lane, and we're going to do the same thing at the proposed project. Tuck the two-story portions under the ridge of the home and use dormers where we need to both add interest inside and outside the home, as well as using the use of large porches that will provide a strong connection between the home and the street. Next slide, please. I want to point out that there's 4 lanterns here, and the reason for that is that there are 18 different elevations, and there are several different styles of homes, including cottage style, craftsman, and colonial. And we want to use details that are consistent and complementary to each style so that it underscores what we're doing and make sure that the quality and the character is carried throughout the homes and all the details. I want to point this detail out too. This is a detail that you see up on Glenridge, where someone's taken an old a porch and filled part of it in. Great place to to put a Christmas tree or to extend a dining room table during the holiday season. Some landscaping along. This is a picture from one of the homes here in town, and you can see the great vine, and you can see that we're doing some of that here. It's just starting out at the Bluebird Lane project, but all the homes will have front yard landscaping at the proposed project, and the landscaping will be maintained by the front yard landscaping will be maintained by the HOA. Next slide, please. There is a tremendous amount of variety that we're planning here, and for each elevation that I'm talking about, you wind up with different rafter tails that underscore the character and the of each style, different materials, different stucco materials. You've got a different window here. This is a leaded window. We are planning to have a window like that on one of the homes at the Honda dealership, former dealership. Different window details here, even from here where you've got a wood lintel, and then you've got just a wood sill here, very consistent with cottage architecture. But in the previous slide, all four sides of the window had wood around it. So different elements in each elevation. Next slide, please. The rock wall. This is something we presented at the Planning Commission meeting back in September, and it's a great detail. We're going to include it in this project. It's going to run along Los Gatos Boulevard and wrap back on Mitchell and on Roberts, and it's one of the great details that I love about our town, and that's the stone walls that you see around town, and we're going to have that's going to be a part of this project as well as that kind of detailing. Next slide, please. Other landscape details, great gates and fences and great hardware and mailboxes and different lights are all part of the character that add the ambiance and really make each home feel like a special place and a unique home, and that's very consistent with the Boulevard plan and the goals of the plan of providing and avoiding cookie cutter architecture and great detailing. Next slide. At the Planning Commission meeting, we talked a lot about the private street, and this was a detail that we introduced in response to the Commission with a driveway apron here. We're doing the same thing and going into the private street as a traffic calming measure. And you can see that there's a special paving treatment. This is a development on Monterey, right here in town, and I think it gives you a good feel for what we're trying to create on this street. Next slide. Here's a detail. We're still working out the details on our private street, and I wrote a letter to you over the weekend and submitted it this week. As we continue to refine the project and work through the details, the goal is to make this really a terrific project and consistent with the goals and objectives that the town has for the best architecture. I'd like to say that our most recent project is our best project. Thank you very much. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Smith.
I'm certain you'll remember that I was very concerned about the sidewalks. When I look at the rendering, I see sidewalks. When I look at the private street, there are no sidewalks. So is this rendering correct or incorrect?
It's correct for where it is. There are sidewalks all around the outside of the project. The private street is where there are no sidewalks. There's not a sidewalk inside the private street.
All right. The second question I have is we talked about the corner and the problem with I think it was the electrical metering. There's a big box there, and the safety of the children crossing the street and on the corner. On their way to Van Meter School. Do you recall that?
I don't. I remember that being an issue at Bluebird recently. But
right. I was looking at the plans, and I couldn't see how it was addressed. Maybe that was actually a question more for staff than it is for you. But there was a question. I think there's a wall there now, and there's a tree, and then there's a big electrical metering box, and you were talking about some kind of treatment. When I saw the low wall, I was thinking about, is that going to go along Los Gatos Boulevard as well?
The stone wall goes all along Los Gatos Boulevard and then wraps around Roberts Road. It doesn't go all the way down Roberts Road, but it continues about to the oak tree, as I recall, and it wraps around on Mitchell to where the private drive begins, and I think it extends just past the private drive to accent the entry, but it does not extend further than that. But I'm not sure I know where the electric meter is that you're referring to. Our civil engineer is here.
Yeah, that's all right. It's not on your property. I think it's between the sidewalk and the crossing. But let me take a look again at the plans, because I was thinking about that this afternoon when I looked what you were going to do about that. All right.
Commissioner Bourgeois?
Thank you, Mr. Robeson. About that rendering, that tree that's so prominent on that corner, my understanding from the staff report is that your intention is to save that tree, but that might not be possible. Could you expand on that a little bit? I'm unclear as to whether or not that's going or not.
Well, we're going to build. We've actually, since it's our goal to save the tree. We like the tree. That's why it's featured prominently in the architecture. But once we're done cutting the sidewalk and the other improvements around it, I want to make sure that that tree is going to stay there and a strong wind is going to be safe. And so, we're going to do everything that we can to protect and save that tree. It's a nice part of the project. I will say that if you take a look at if, for example, we were to lose that tree, I don't know if you recall, but at the Planning Commission hearing, we showed a cross section of next to this elevation, and we showed some huge box trees here. And if you take a look at sheet L3 of the landscape plan, we've got a really, really impressive list of trees that we're going to be planting out there, and the concentration of those trees is in the median and along Los Gatos Boulevard, all the really large trees. I believe there's an 80-inch, 84-inch box, and 372s, and 860s, and several 36-inch box trees. So we got a lot of trees being planned, but it is our goal to save that tree.
Any other questions? Okay. I actually have a couple of questions. Do you have a close-up of lots 21 and 22, like a closer front elevation? Do you happen to have one?
Are you looking at the site plan or the streetscape?
More the streetscape. And let me tell you what my concerns are. There was a lot of time that we had spent on the safety of the students waiting at the sidewalk as they cross the crosswalk. And numerous times, just watching the amount of kids standing there, they do spill out from the sidewalk onto the street. And so I wanted to see an elevation of what it would actually look like once it's built, to really see how it can accommodate those kids when they're all standing in one spot. Are they going to be spilling onto the front yard of Lot 21? Are they?
Well, you've got the setback there. I need a lifeline.
Sure.
I'll have that. We've got there's really large setbacks. Sam, if you'd please go back to that site plan. Yeah, that'd be great. And Sam's looking for the section, but we've got a really large setback here and along here. So I can say this: there's not going to be a problem with room. I don't know that necessarily means it's been designed to accommodate a crowd, and it could easily accommodate a crowd as long as we design it to accommodate that. You have 14 feet from the wall to the sidewalk?
From the curb. From the curb line.
Oh, you have 14 feet from the back of wall to the ramp. Like I said, I know there's plenty of space there. We can take a look at that because I'm familiar with the issue out at Bluebird Lane, and we can double check that. That's something that we can work through with staff just to make sure. But I think that there's ample space out there. We can make room for a crowd if we need to.
Okay. And also another concern that I have is not only for the children but for the actual homeowners of those lots. How high is the rock wall going to be?
It varies from 30 inches at the far left end to, at that spot, it is approximately 30 inches high.
And is it the width? I'm also anticipating problems of kids like skateboarding on those. Is it something that?
Well, it'll be stone,
Okay.
and so it'll be uneven. So I don't think kids are going to skateboard. It won't be a good skateboard place. And we do have a low wrought iron fence that's going to run behind that wall. We're going to plant a hedge just in front of it, so that to keep kids out of that common area.
Okay. Okay. And then, again, on lots 21 and 22, if you remember, one of my concerns was the elevation and what would those front rooms be, considering the headlights that would be entering into those front rooms from Shannon as well as Los Gatos Boulevard. Could you share that with me?
Sure. I don't know which sheet it's on, but if you take a look at the landscape plans, I'll just say that some of the large landscape material that we have planned, the 60-inch and the box trees, the large redwoods, we've got placed in front of that section. Some of that heavy landscaping is there to diffuse the light coming down Shannon Road. In addition to that, the master bedroom is on the far side of the home as opposed to that side, as opposed to the Los Gatos Boulevard side. So, the kids' bedrooms will be out on the boulevard, and for those rooms, we're going to be using landscaping to soften lighting.
Okay. And one other question I had, in your letter, you had talked about living space over the garage for lots 2, 4, 5, and 7. Is that a new thing that was added? Because I don't recall living space.
No, it's and we talked about it at the Planning Commission, and it's a flexible space, and I don't think the plans show it, but I did say it at the commission meeting that it perhaps a powder bath would go in there, but it's not meant to be a place where your homebound college students is going to come back and live at. The space for the detached garages is 330 square feet. By comparison, at Bluebird Lane, we have two houses with garage with living spaces over the garage. Those are 480 square feet, and they have a kitchenette and a bathroom. So it's really a completely different plan. And I also want to add that we've reduced the height since the Planning Commission hearing of those garages from 21 feet to 18 feet, in an effort to continue to reduce the mass and the height of those detached garages.
Mm-hmm. Okay. My recollection was that, and again, it's just my recollection, but it was more for storage, because there was a lot of discussion about parking and the idea of, by having storage above, it would actually enable people to use their garages. But so we're looking at storage as well as maybe a powder room.
It could be used for storage, and it also could be used as a flexible study or home office.
But no kitchenette and...
No, that's the only reason why I was thinking about a powder bath. If you used it for an office, it would be nice to have a bathroom so that you didn't have to go out back into your house. But the intention is not for it to be a living space, and we've intentionally reduced the height and the size of that of those spaces for that reason.
Okay. And actually, one other question on construction management. Just because it is such a busy location, what are your plans as you start to begin? Are you planning to build the outside, similar to what you did with Bluebird Lane? Are you planning to enclose it? Just walk me through it, as I'm just nervous about the amount of kids that walk through that area.
Me too. Can we go to the site plan, Sam? And staff did a really good job of putting together a set of conditions for deliveries, and I don't recall off the top of my head, but there are delivery hours that deliveries can take place. As I mentioned at the Planning Commission hearing in September, we at Bluebird Lane, we built the sidewalks in the summertime so that it wouldn't impact kids traveling to school. And I'll walk you through the rest of the phasing. This is Los Gatos Boulevard here, and this is Roberts. This is Mitchell. Our intention is to build, thanks Sam, this half of the project first and move from this side to this side. This is the goal, though, would be to install all the public improvements. My thinking right now to put in all the public improvements up front, the sidewalks all around the site, and then again to put in a solid barrier along here so we can use this for construction staging. And in fact, that's what we did at Bluebird Lane, and we decided we turned it into a sign, but it was really to hide the stuff that we had no place to put. And so we're going to do the same thing here. And then once this finishes, we'll move this direction.
And last question, would it affect the number of parking that is currently available to the people that either live there or use the preschool behind on George?
I think it I think it will temporarily when we're making improvements. As I said at the Planning Commission, I mean, we'll have to, there are improvements that have to go in, and when those go in, temporarily, we're going to try to do that as quickly and as efficiently so that we limit the impact. But as I said at the commission hearing, there will be an impact. We can't avoid it, but hopefully, as one of the neighbors said from Bluebird Lane, we were very respectful. We did a good job, and I think we will for sure here as well, and we've learned.
And what was your notification process to neighbors? Did you give them when you anticipated a heavy load that may utilize parking, was there neighbor notification a certain amount of time ahead?
We designated 2 people, both a construction manager and someone from the office, that people in the neighborhood had contact phone numbers, and when we would close streets, as we did recently, to do the slurry out on Los Gatos Boulevard, the work that we did in October, we notified people by mail drop, and I think it's worked very well. Off the top of my head, I don't remember all the details, but I can say this is that we had 2 people that anyone in the neighborhood could call at any time, and some called frequently, because of the interface, replacing fences and doing things like that. There were a lot of issues at Bluebird Lane that, because of we had residents right next door to us that we don't have here. I mean, the sidewalk is the most critical thing on this project. Once that's installed, and we fence off our project, and the curb is in, then the parking on the outside will be available for people, and the sidewalk will be available for pedestrians.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? Commissioner Smith?
I just have one follow-up, if I could. As I look at the plan, and as I read the plan, it said to construct the bus duckout on Los Gatos Boulevard. So the sidewalk, which is wide, as you described, off of Lot 21, actually is going to become very narrow, is it not, along 18, 19, and 20? I'm just trying to think of the kids again who are walking down there.
Well, you've got I'll get the sidewalk dimension, but part of that, yes, there is a planter for some landscaping that isn't there right now. We happen to like that because it pulls people off of the curb and separates people from the traffic. I've got a section that I can show you, and because I'm not exactly sure the question
The question I
answering.
have is that we were talking about the safety of the children, but the sidewalk is going to be fairly wide, and off of Lot 21, there's going to be, the people who live in Lot 21 are going to have a barrier and a wall and a fence, but then when you get to the VTA bus stop, the sidewalk's going to narrow quite a bit, and I wasn't sure if that meant, and as I was looking at the dotted lines here, I see the wall. I see the stone wall, but I see a very narrow sidewalk. And again, dimensionally, I'm sure it complies. I want you to just tell me that it's standard size of sidewalk because of the bus duckout.
I'm sure it's standard, and it meets.
And what is standard?
Okay, one moment.
Yeah.
I need another lifeline. My civil engineer,
I believe it's 8
he actually
feet.
lives here in the town as well.
Okay.
My name is Pete McMorrow. I'm with Civil Engineering Associates. I live at 298 Albert Drive in Los Gatos. The sidewalk you're referring to will be 8 feet wide, it's 8 feet from face of curb to the back of walk at the bus duckout.
As compared to what when it's not the bus duckout?
It's 10 feet wide.
Is it just
when
10
it's
feet?
not.
It's only 2 feet. I was trying to determine whether that was 12 versus down to 8, or what you're saying is it's another 2 feet.
It's 8 to 10.
Okay.
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 With that,
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Smith? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Robeson. Now, again, I have no other speaker cards on this matter. Does anyone else want to speak? Okay, Mr. Robeson, do you have any other? You have 3 minutes to close if you'd like to use it.
all right, I would like to just go back to the section, if I could, along Los Gatos Boulevard. And I'd like to, you can see that there's a bike lane there. There is a planter that separates the pedestrian from the cars right now. The sidewalk and the curb are right up to traffic, so it's actually, a big improvement. You can see from the back of walk, there's some landscaping the wall, and then you've got more landscaping between the back of the house. And this parkway, I want to point out, wraps around the entire project. Right now, it's a monolithic sidewalk. You don't have a street tree program. You don't have trees like this. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got a variety of trees that are going to blossom in the spring and change colors in the fall, and are going to be consistent with the cycles and the seasons of our community. And I think that that's going to be a good thing, and I really believe it's going to enhance the safety. That, in addition to back to the site plan, I don't know if you recall, but out at out here we've got a bulb out and a bulb out to add more landscaping and bring pedestrians where they can see and be seen and improve those connections. And I will double check this and make sure that there's adequate. It's designed. We have plenty of space, and I'll just double check to make sure that it's designed so that people, there's no conflict with traffic and people, because there's plenty of room out there. We just got to design it in now. That concludes my remarks.
And actually, Mr. Robeson, I do have one more question.
Okay.
Have you identified where your off-site BMP will be?
I have not yet.
Okay. Is that something, and I can't recall, maybe it's more for staff, is that something that has to be bought prior to groundbreaking, or when in the process is that?
We didn't include the timing on it. It does have to it has to be approved by council, and traditionally with BMP units, we won't final some of the market rate units until the BMP units are online and ready to go.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Robeson. Okay, with that, I'll close the public input for this item. And Commissioners, are there any questions of staff or any comments that you would like to share before we move towards a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Ms. Davis?
sorry, I stand corrected. The condition does specify that the unit has to be approved by the town council prior to issuance of building permits.
Building permits, okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner O'Donnell?
If the chair is entertaining a motion, I'll make it.
I am, thank you.
I would move to approve the architecture and site applications dependent upon it, making, which I'm now making in the motion, the required findings and considerations more fully set forth on Exhibit 2, and approve architecture and site applications S11065 through S11086, subject to the performance standards included in the PD ordinance, which is set forth in Exhibit 3, and subject to the conditions of approval, which are set forth in Exhibit 4.
Do I have a second to the motion? Commissioner Erickson?
I have a question for the maker of the motion. I believe that the intent of the applicant was to incorporate site plan revisions that were part of the desk item, and would like that, and I believe their intent was to include that.
You're absolutely right, and the motion should include that latest proposal.
Okay. Commissioner Erickson?
Given that, I will second the motion.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner O'Donnell and a second by Commissioner Erickson. Any comments? Commissioner Jensen?
Much like Commissioner Bourgeois in the last item, I am going to be supporting the motion only because the only thing that the Planning Commission is looking at tonight are exteriors, landscaping, and materials, architecture and site. The water is under the bridge on the number of houses and the density of this development. Like Commissioner Bourgeois, I'm concerned with his issue was women's apparel at Old Town. My concern is dense balkanized housing developments all along Los Gatos Boulevard that I think contain too many houses in too little space. So that's my concern, but the only thing we're doing tonight is saying what those houses look like. So I'm going to reluctantly support the motion.
Commissioner Bourgeois.
Yeah, I'm going to be supporting the motion as well, and I had expressed concern about the density as well as the offsite BMP, but as Commissioner Jensen said, that's not before us tonight. I would like to compliment the applicant on the attention to detail and the diversity of what we're seeing here for architecture and site. I think this is what we want to see. We want to see really thoughtful design and diversity, and really trying to create a neighborhood where every house doesn't look the same as we've seen. So I will be supporting the motion because I think what's before us, the architecture and site planning, is excellent.
Any other comments? Commissioner Erickson?
I'd also like to compliment the applicant on their reduction in some of the actual footprints in the revision to the plan that created a bit more open space, not fully to address the concerns which Commissioner Jensen has, but to actually open up the project a little bit and create a little bit more space and to reduce the density a bit. So I think that was a terrific adjustment to the plan.
Any other comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? It passes 6-0 with Commissioner Talas for recused. Okay, and does this have any appeal rights?
Yes, this decision is appealable to the Town Council. There is a fee for filing the appeal. Appeals are located upstairs in the Town Clerk's office, and there's 10 days to file the appeal.
Okay, that concludes tonight's public hearings. Do we have a report from Community Development?
Yes, just one item to report. The Town Council considered an appeal at 100 Costanzas Court. That's from the Linda Avenue development. And the Town Council upheld the Planning Commission's decision to approve the application.
Okay. And then under Commission matters, Commissioner Erickson?
I would like to introduce a motion, Madam Chair, that the Planning Commission offer its congratulations to Planner Marnie Mosley on the arrival of her daughter, Caitlin May, and that we extend our congratulations and best wishes to Planner Mosley and the new addition to their family, and hope that they're back soon.
Yes, we will second that. Okay, any other Commissioner matters? Okay, just a reminder, this is our last one of 2011. Wait. Is it? Yeah, 2011. I'm already thinking 2012. And as we begin next, we'll be meeting again in January 11th. And at that time, we will do our annual rotation of chairmanships. Okay? So have a great holiday, everyone. See you next year.